Hi, my name is Steve Murphy, and this is the Insider Exclusive. Today, we're featuring Houston's premier law firms with the law firm of Hagans Burdine Montgomery Rustay and Winchester. Stay tuned.
No trial, no matter how well you've prepared, is without surprises.
It's kind of like putting a cross or a jigsaw puzzle together, except that you don't know where all the pieces are. You have to go find the pieces. The more pieces you find, the better the picture you can create.
I've always wanted to be a lawyer, and I think one of the reasons that attracted me to this firm is everybody here is tremendously passionate about their own practice of law.
If our name is associated with the case, they know that type of due diligence has gone into it. Otherwise, we wouldn't put our time and energy and money into a case.
For a client, the only case in the world is that client's case, and that is the most important case. I will have another client, I'll have another case. That client only has one. It's not just a case, and it's not just a client.
Today, we're going to look at some of the key players at the law firm of Hagans Burdine Montgomery Rustay and Winchester. And today, I have with me, first up on deck, Fred Hagans. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Steve. Glad to have you here.
You are one of Houston's outstanding lawyers. What makes a good trial lawyer?
There are several things. One is courage,
Yeah.
the willingness to go try a lawsuit.
And what do you mean by that? Courage to try a lawsuit?
When you
Talking about putting money on the line?
putting money on the line, putting time on the line, and going in and putting yourself on the line, knowing that no trial, no matter how well you've prepared, is without surprises.
You know, when a trial lawyer, a young one who's watching this show, looks at you and he sees, wow, $1.5 billion over the years, you know, with the help of some of your outstanding partners that we're going to be talking with a little later on in this show, they got to say not all of your cases were successful, right?
That's right.
What are the ones that you remember the worst, so people know that you're real?
Well,
The biggest defeats.
The worst case that I really ever experienced was trying an admittedly tough medical malpractice case, and the jury was out a very short period of time and just said no, you know, the doctor was not guilty of malpractice.
Yeah.
And it came hard because it was a hard case, and I knew that, but I also knew the clients were deserving, and I felt badly for them. Not so badly for me. I mean, I hate to lose like any competitive person, but I'll have another client. I'll have another case. That client only has one, and one of the things that I really admonish young lawyers and old lawyers alike to keep in mind is, for a client, the only case in the world is that client's case, and that is the most important case.
Right.
It's not just a case, and it's not just a client.
You know, I've often thought about that. You know, when you're on a case, you know, and I've talked to lots of lawyers and they say, I'm on a case. You're working how many hours a day? Really, literally?
It is rare that we work any less than 12 hours a day.
7 days a week?
Well, only 6.5.
Okay, but I mean up to that trial, and then during
once you get within the last month of trial, now you go to 14 and 15-hour days, and when you're in trial, it's 16 and 18-hour days.
And what you're really working on is preparation, 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 aren't you?
You're working on preparation, and you're also trying to anticipate everything that can go wrong. Because, again, no matter how much you prepare, things won't always play out exactly the way you plan for them.
Right. What do you tell a client when you take on a case? You know, what do you give them, prepare them for? You know, they could lose, but how do you prepare them?
Well, we talk to them about what the process is, and how there are always at least two sides to every story.
Yes.
And that the jury is going to have to decide which side to believe. And sometimes you can be absolutely right and just look and sound incredible. And there are things that sometimes the law is against you. And so the fact is, you can lose. We're willing to take your case because we believe we can win.
Yes.
But we can't promise a win.
Are there some cases you absolutely don't take?
There are some cases we don't take.
What kind of cases are they?
The first case that I won't take is when a client comes in and says, I want to sue as a matter of principle.
Yeah, because his pride has been injured.
Because what he wants to do is to punish someone.
Yeah.
He doesn't want compensation, he wants punishment. And that's not the purpose of the civil justice system.
You know, you bring up a good point, about compensation. A lot of people say, well, he just wants to sue for the money, okay? But really, that's the only way to punish.
Well, it's to
and
punish.
set the record straight to prevent it happening again.
Well, it's to punish and it's to compensate. If I had my druthers when a widow comes in, I'd rather bring life back to her husband who's
Sure.
no longer around. When a guy comes in because his arm has been amputated, or a client comes in because both of her legs have been amputated because doctors ignored her, I'd rather give them their limbs back. I'd rather give them their life back. But the only way we can compensate, and we can make their life better.
Yes.
I mean, they can get the prosthetics they need, they can get the rehabilitation they need, they can get the extra help they need. And the only way we can do that is through money.
There's a trend today towards arbitration, and we've been talking about litigation. A smart litigator knows when to settle a case too, doesn't he?
Absolutely. There are two bases on which you settle a case. One is when your client can no longer afford the risk, and another is when they actually offer you a fair settlement.
Based on precedents.
Based on precedent, and the fact of the matter is, if you looked at averages, we almost always settle our cases for far above the average because we bring value to the case.
Your firm, when they're hired by a client and you go up against some other law firm, they know who you are. Are they more likely to settle?
They are more likely to settle for more money.
Yeah, because they know you're thorough, you're detailed, etc.
And they know that we will try the lawsuit.
Good. I'm glad you're here to protect all of us. Now we're going to introduce one of your other partners. And my next guest, who's one of the key players at the law firm, Scott Burdine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve.
The reason we do these shows is to show the audience that, you're real. You're real people. You're very good lawyers, obviously. But what makes you the kind of lawyer that you are?
I've always wanted to be a lawyer, and I think one of the reasons that attracted me to this firm is everybody here is tremendously passionate about their own practice of law.
They are.
I think that's probably the most important aspect of being a good lawyer is to really believe in what you do and enjoy what you do and be passionate about your practice, and we all share that in common.
In your particular practice that you're passionate about, you came from the insurance industry, right?
That's true. As many lawyers that ended up, what I'll say, joining the better side of the docket,
Yes.
we started
Where
as
you are
defense
now.
lawyers.
Where
yes.
you are now.
Yes.
And you learn their dirty, dark secrets. And we can say that, can't
Sure,
we?
that's absolutely true.
You learn how they don't like to pay anybody.
Sometimes that is true.
Isn't that always true?
Well, I certainly believe that more now after being on the other side of those cases and getting in some of the files that I didn't see when I was doing that kind of work.
Yes. You do what's commonly called bad faith insurance litigation.
We do.
For businesses.
Yes.
Not just individuals.
Absolutely.
Businesses.
Businesses get treated just as poorly as individuals.
Give me an example of a memorable case that you handled recently where a business got treated poorly by their insurance company, and what did you do for them?
Well, absolutely. I'm handling a case right now for one of the major companies here in Houston. They had been sued in an underlying case involving a toxic tort exposure. They owned a chemical plant facility, and they thought they had insurance standing behind the claim. And the underlying lawsuit was a very serious case, and the client determined that they had serious exposure. They went to their insurance companies and said, we've got this insurance policy, we've been paying our premiums for many years and we'd like you to pay.
Yeah, pay.
And the insurance companies said no, and they've created every obstacle and defense known to mankind to
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Do they have the money?
Absolutely.
And so, where's the ethics here?
I agree. And you look at that, and it's again, we don't view this, whether it's an individual or a company, it's the same type of problem. and insurance is a good example. You make a bond or a contract with the insurance company. You probably will never need them.
Yes.
You hope you don't need them, but when you do need them, you expect them to be there for you.
Absolutely.
And in this case, they weren't. And in many of our cases, they're not.
And having come from the insurance industry, would it be safe to say their strategy is if we say no now, we don't have to pay the money now. We can drag it out for years. We may eventually have to pay, but it'll be well worth it.
Agreed, and it's a numbers game for them. They have large reserves. They forecast how much they're going to have to pay out.
Yes.
And delay is the name of the game.
But the other problem is, let's say in a chemical explosion of a plant, someone gets killed. There's other people that are suing that company that's supposed to be insured by the insurance company. They have to pay litigation costs on those lawsuits too, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Does that all get figured in later on, like this domino effect about how much that insurance company will have to pay later?
Absolutely so. I mean, all that is
Yeah.
forecasted, all that is projected, and these insurance companies are experts at forecasting how much matter is going to cost for them to both defend and settle.
We're in the grand city of Houston, and I understand that you worked on some cases involving Enron, right?
I did.
What kind of cases did you work on?
I did lots of different things for Enron. I handled what I would call general commercial litigation matters for them.
Really?
I handled both plaintiffs and defense cases for them. They're a big company, and as many big companies will agree, they get in all kinds of interesting disputes involving both business cases and personal injury cases, and I've handled both for them.
What other type, a lot of business people are watching this show, what other type of commercial business litigation matters do you get involved with?
We do a wide variety of business litigation here, and my practice has certainly been a very broad area. We do things like patent infringement litigation, which you can call that intellectual property, but that's a part of business or commercial litigation.
Yes.
That's one of the real growth areas that we're seeing now is more and more companies, as intellectual property becomes important in the age of computers and technology, more and more companies are seeking to enforce their rights to different types of technology, and I've been very involved in that over the last few years.
I think an important note that should be made about your firm regarding patent litigation, there's a lot of little guys out there who can't afford lawyers like yourself, and your firm takes cases on contingency in patent litigation cases, don't they?
Absolutely, and we've represented clients on both sides of the docket, but there's no question that our emphasis has been on the plaintiff side, and we do take those cases on a contingency generally.
Right, and what that means is you don't have to come up with a lot of money now, and you guys will go to bat for that client and hopefully recover a substantial amount of money for them.
Yeah, in many cases, the client doesn't come up with any money up front because when we take a case on a contingency, the law firm funds all of the expense. But it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
Depending on the type of client, sometimes we share expenses. Sometimes we have different types of an agreement where we don't have to pay all the expenses up front.
I see in your biography you're board certified.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly in layman's terms for everybody watching this show?
Sure. That means that you have a higher degree of competency than many lawyers do based on your experience and based on your competency in taking an exam required in the state of Texas. You have to have so many cases under your belt, you have to have so many years of experience,
Yes.
and once you meet those basic criteria, then you have to take an exam in your area of specialty to
really?
demonstrate your competence.
I also understand you handle some shareholder suits too,
Yes, we've handled those cases in the past as well.
for private companies, for public companies, et cetera, right?
We do both. We represent individuals and companies in those type of cases.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to have another one of your partners come up on the firm, and I want to thank you for sharing a few minutes. We'll have you
You're
back
welcome.
on another show.
Enjoy visiting with you.
Thank you. And my next guest, one of the key partners here, Kendall Montgomery.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to have you here. You get involved with a lot of oil and gas cases, and in fact, you've been involved with Latin American cases. Tell us a little bit about that.
I guess I started out more in the oil and gas field.
Yes.
It became oil and gas litigation early in my career. First case I ever had that went to trial was an oil and gas case against Tennessee Gas Pipeline Company.
And I understand it resulted in a $600 million verdict or something?
It did.
That's a great way to start your career.
The partner that tried it looked at me when the verdict was read and said, "So where do you go from here?" And it was a unique experience.
Yes.
It was a 4.5-month trial and 3 years of my life
Right.
into it. So that got me started in oil and gas litigation, which has remained an important part of my practice for 20 years.
So when you say it got you into your career, we talked before the show started a little bit about, what do you see makes a good trial lawyer?
In the commercial litigation that I do, it is a combination of organization, to be able to follow what can be hundreds of thousands of pieces of paper.
Yes.
And it's like putting a puzzle together. It's like all the paper exists and people have thrown it all out there. And it's kind of like putting a jigsaw puzzle together in a way, except that you don't know where all the pieces are.
Right.
You don't start out with all the pieces on the table. You have to go find the pieces. The more pieces you find, the better the picture you can create.
Right. Some of the companies you represent are Latin American companies, aren't they?
We have represented a number of Latin American
That,
companies.
and generally they have one central theme in common, that is a U.S. company came down to their country, treated them like, dirt, left there,
Correct.
and then thought to themselves, these people are never going to sue us in the U.S., right?
Correct. That has been a recurring theme in cases that I've been handling.
And you're able to get information, I think, was it the Tennessee Pipe case, where you get information where there's memos that have been sent internally saying these people will never show up, so to heck with them, right?
That was a different case, but yes, we have actually gotten in discovery internal documentation where the analysis was made where if we don't honor the agreement, it's a small company out of Mexico in that case, it is unlikely they will come here to New Jersey, which
Yes.
is where the lawsuit would have to be filed. It would be too costly for them to undertake. So we have no real exposure to being sued.
For all American executives who might be watching this show, they should be on guard and recognize the fact that wherever they do business, they have to do it legally, they have to do it in an ethical manner, right?
Correct.
And treat everybody fairly.
They do. Just because the other company may be small, may not have the sophistication or the power of a Walmart or a Church and Dwight or an Indies, different groups. It doesn't mean that you can simply use your money, your power to say, I can do what I want.
For all our viewers, when you take a case on contingency, you have to lay out a lot of money. You have to invest a lot of money. So without having all the evidence in front of you yet, because you've got the discovery process to go through to get the smoking guns, right?
Correct.
How do you make that judgment call that this is a case that we think we can win? Because you certainly don't do it because you think it's an ethical, wrongdoing here.
You meet with the clients. You get to review their documents. You
Yes.
get to see at least their side of the story.
Yes.
The other side is always going to have their side of the
Sure.
story, but you can see, does it have a logical sequence to everything that happened? Does it have a story with a beginning,
Yeah.
a middle, and an end?
Right.
And is there a clear just change of plans, change of something that is just wrong?
Well, congratulations. I'm pleased. I want everybody to know that not only does your firm represent the little individual, but also the little companies and the people who are on the right side of the law, maybe don't have the litigation budget, but with the help of your firm can successfully recover in court.
Thank you.
And-
We'll work at it.
Okay, and I'm going to have you back on another show. We're going to have one of your other partners up. Thank you very much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
And another key player, a partner here at the firm, Jennifer Rustay. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You had an amazing victory there yesterday, didn't you?
We were pleased on behalf of our clients, yes.
Yes, and tell our audience a little bit about the case.
Well, that case involved a class arbitration, which was interesting from the legal standpoint of sort of melding three different worlds. We had all the parts of class actions, we
Yes.
had arbitration rules, and then we had the overlay of the fiduciary duty between a lawyer and a client. So with those kind of legal principles in mind, and never losing sight of the fact that there were 3,400 women who were very interested in the results.
Right.
It was a great victory.
What kind of settlement do they end up getting, roughly, each one of them? You know, on an average.
Sure. Well, the case actually involved their interaction with their lawyer and some improper expenses that were charged to them.
And this is a case that's in the newspaper, so we can say it was John Quinn.
Yeah, it was John Quinn. And his,
who's a well-known Houston lawyer.
He is, very well known. And these were his breast implant clients, and each of the clients who are members of our class were charged an improper expense. So that expense has now been refunded to them, or will be. And then in addition to that, some of the attorney's fees that they had deducted from their settlements way back in 92, 95, 96, back in that time period, will also be refunded as well. So they'll get part of their attorney's fees back as well as the improper expenses. And for them it's a great victory, because for so many of these women they've had additional medical expenses and all kinds of expenses that have occurred after their settlements, and that really helps them.
What might they be seeing in terms of dollars and cents?
Well, it's
average.
Well, and that's part of what's unique about class action litigation is, even though remedies may be different, everybody had different damages, but the way that the remedy actually comes out to them is dependent upon the settlement they received from the breast implant manufacturer. So everybody has
pro rata.
Right, it's a pro rata, so it'll be different for every woman. But in terms of the aggregate, it'll be approaching $60 million to be distributed among the 3,400 women.
Yes. Now, when you sent your bio information to me originally, you mentioned that your first case, trial by fire, was an oil and gas case. Is that right?
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about that, because here we are in Texas.
Sure.
You know, you got oil, you got gas, you got plenty of it, right?
Sure.
And you were just thrown into this thing and you won some huge victory. What was it exactly?
Well, I just finished up a judicial clerkship, so I was ready to take on the world, or so I thought.
Yeah.
And 6 months into the practice, we had an oil and gas client and some attorneys who had worked on the case who no longer could. They came to the firm that I was working for at the time. It was Bracewell and Patterson then, now Bracewell and Giuliani.
Mm-hmm.
And they needed a new firm and somebody who they could just jump in to learn it. And for whatever reason, that became me. And over the next year, I think, I immersed myself in the case and ultimately went down and got a great verdict. I think we got a $12 million verdict on behalf of that. But oil and gas cases are fascinating to me. Obviously the subject matter, the law, and the dollars involved. But more than that, you just see some of the most colorful characters you could imagine. I mean, it's straight out of a Larry McMurtry book where it's Lonesome Dove in the Old West.
Give me an example of some of the colorful characters you've run across in these cases. T. Boone, maybe?
If not him, there are others, while less visible on a national scale, certainly embodying a lot of the characteristics.
The wildcatters.
Yes.
Hard drinking.
Hard charging, take no prisoners type guys. Yeah, there was one that truly got up on the stand describing the other guy as a lower than a low-down polecat, snake-bellied son of a something from the stand. Yeah. And that was him talking about a guy he liked.
Yeah.
And
well, that was his friend.
That was his friend. So I mean, the exchanges are colorful, and the law it really is something that, I mean, sometimes you just kind of pinch yourself because it's just fun. I mean, it really is, and that's what's neat about those cases. The men and women who are involved in those cases, many times have done the geology or the seismic for years and years of their lives, and they're finally getting to see their dream realized. And for whatever reason, they may be from a smaller company, and a larger company just says, "We think we can mow you over," or in other instances, these are guys who said, "Look, I've always believed that stuff was out there. Finally, somebody believed in me, and then they took it away. Go back there and fight for my dream." And that's kind of neat. I mean, because you're not just fighting for a person; it's a person in a dream they have.
Now, you take a lot of these cases on contingency, don't you?
We do.
So, you really have to make sure that you're making a good investment in time and money when you take on some of these cases. What are some of the criteria that you seek to meet before you take on a case like this?
Well, my husband and I have a 2.5-month-old and a 6-month-old, and one of my
feeding the kids.
No, one of my key criteria is if I'm going to spend time away from my family, I want to make sure what I'm doing is worthwhile, not only in terms of the result I'd get, but is it something that is worthwhile for the broader legal system?
Yes.
And the people involved, the characters involved, true.
Yes.
But beyond that sort of esoteric, We really do look to the actual merits of the claim. We want to understand the legal landscape against which the dispute's going to be decided. We want to understand the liability facts. And one of the things that's come part and parcel with that is if our name is associated with the case, they know that type of due diligence has gone into it. Otherwise,
Yes.
we wouldn't put our time and energy and money into a case. So hopefully the very fact that we have taken a case gives it a little bit of legitimacy
Sends a message.
that says these people have looked
Yeah.
at it and decided whether it was worth their time or not.
So when somebody comes to you with a case,
Mm-hmm.
you can't make a decision right then and there whether you're going to take it. How long does it usually take? It involves time and effort and money anyway,
Sure,
doesn't it?
sure. And I think that's one of the greater legal services that sometimes is kind of goes unnoticed in the broader picture that lawyers do provide.
Yeah.
Sitting down with someone who says, I think I've been wronged, I think I have a lawsuit. And sometimes we tell them, you know, you do have something that's gone wrong, but the law doesn't provide a remedy, and I'm so sorry to tell you that. And,
Yes.
and many times we say, hey, there is something here, and we think that's worth pursuing.
Mm-hmm.
But that time and that effort at the front end, it, you know, goes obviously without compensation, but that's okay because what we do with that is find the cases that are best suited to the strengths that our firm has, or if it's not a case we can take, try to find the right firm for those people. And,
Yeah.
and again, that's one of the services that, you know, sometimes people don't think about, but lawyers being lawyers really should help people find the lawyers that they need with the right strengths for their cases.
Right. Every one of your partners that I've had here at the table on this show, I've asked them the same question. Why did you become a lawyer? And every single one of them said, I knew from the day, you know, I was very young, that I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to help people. Why did you become a lawyer?
I don't know that there was a specific moment in time, but between law school or between undergraduate school and law school, I worked for a summer in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember driving back one evening because I was working at a church. I was helping a group of fairly troubled teens trying to work through some of the stuff that they had going on. That was my job for the summer. And I remember being up in the mountains, looking back down and looking at the city of Albuquerque spread out before me. And the other counselor that was with me, we were talking, and I said, if you think about it, down there, everywhere we see a little light is a family with a need, and they may have a kid. And my only job tomorrow is to figure out how I can spend my day to help that family and that child. And that is the neatest feeling in the world. Well, I remember that summer and thought, is there any job I could ever have where every day when I woke up, I thought,
Yeah.
what I do today
Yeah.
is truly about helping people. And the job of a lawyer is, my work only begins when people have a problem too big for themselves to handle and they
Sure.
need somebody else to help.
Sure.
And that's where my job begins, where their ability to help themselves leaves off. And so
Okay.
knowing that is what I do and how I do it, I mean, I can't imagine a better job. I don't know if there was a moment in time where I said, this is what I want to do, but from the time that I kind of thought that, from working with those kids that summer, I thought that's the kind of job I want to have.
Yeah.
And this firm and this practice has allowed me to do that.
Yeah, well, I tell you this, if I ever have a problem, I'm going to come to you because I need a believer like you. Listen, I want to thank you for being on our show.
Sure.
We're going to have you back again. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, and for more information and to see the show again, go to www.insiderexclusive.com. I'm Steve Murphy. See you next time.